So Barack Obama made 3 cash payments to Iran: January 17, 2016, 400 million; January 22nd, 2016, 1.3 billion; February 5th, 2016, 10 million. Obama was paying his organization. Donald Trump, Barack Obama is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder. That's what Trump says. So I want to play this clip here.
Guess where I bet you that money went to?
Where?
That Obama paid out. It was to keep those F-14 Tomcats that the U.S. still should have on inventory that we gave Iran back in 1974. And they all run and drive, but they keep getting paid because of black market parts. And that's where that money went to. That's just enough to maintain that fleet that they have.
Is responding for the very first time to questions about the controversial $400 million cash payment to Iran. It was one of the issues that came up at his news conference yesterday at the Pentagon. The president also discussed America's new airstrikes against ISIS in Libya. Major Garrett is at the White House with the president's pushback against Donald Trump and other critics. Major, good morning.
Good morning. President Obama called talk of ransom paid to Iran for U.S. hostages a transfer that was carried out in big bundles of non-U.S. currency, the stuff of spy novels. The president said it was actually much more boring than that. Money that was owed to Iran in the first place and simply couldn't be transferred any other way. After reviewing military efforts against ISIS in Iraq and Syria, President Obama for the first time addressed questions about a $400 million payment to Iran at the time 4 detained Americans were released.
We announced these payments in January, many months ago. There wasn't a secret. This wasn't some nefarious deal. We do not pay ransom for hostages. We do not pay ransom. We didn't here, and we won't in the future.
As yet, the administration has refused to say if the plane ferrying the Americans from Iran to Switzerland departed before or after the currency arrived, deepening the sense Iran viewed it as ransom. The president suggested the nature of the payment, not the timing, made the story intriguing.
Maybe because it kind of feels like some spy novel or, some...
feels like bullshit.
Novel, because cash was exchanged.
Negro, please.
The reason cash was exchanged is because we don't have a banking relationship with Iran.
In the fight against the
Then
Islamic
you don't
State,
have any other intermediary
Obama
bank
said
anywhere else in the damn world to go deal with that.
Major successful offensive operation in either Syria or Iraq in a full year.
But the president took painful note of ISIS-inspired terror attacks in Europe and at home.
As we've seen, it is still very difficult to detect and prevent lone actors or small cells of terrorists who are determined to kill the innocent and are willing to die.
The president also touted coalition airstrikes that took off the battlefield 3 top ISIS commanders and intelligence gained from former ISIS strongholds in Iraq and Syria. Josh, it was by far the most optimistic assessment of the battle against the Islamic State, and one that obviously flies in the face of unrelenting criticism from GOP nominee Donald Trump.
Major Garrett, thank you.
That's an old teller podcast.
Is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS. Okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS. And I would say the co-founder would be crooked Hillary Clinton.
This when he was first running for
yeah, it's a while old, but that's about the essence of it. He got them enough to get them financed.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think they probably used it to maintain the F-14 Tomcat fit. And speaking of which, that's one of Obama's worst F-ups. This was probably, wasn't stealthy at all, but it was probably, once it got the full upgrades in electronics and weaponized, it wound up being probably, just for day-to-day purposes, probably the most effective fighter in the whole world. And just after they upgraded the entire fleet, Obama grounded the damn things because he wanted the money for his social programs. So the U.S. grounded its F-14 fleet, but Iran still has a large number of them left over from when the Shah was in place way back in the 1970s. So they still have their fleet, and every now and then they have to upgrade it and keep it maintained. So we gave away a lot of our stuff or grounded it. And That's thanks to Obama boy, and he also sat there and financed Iran's mischief. And you can't tell me there is no way that you could not make a money exchange other than by cash unless somebody's demanding it. And you should have said, hell no, we're not going for that.
Right. Well,
all the Swiss banking arrangements and stuff going on. What the hell is the matter with that fool thinking we buy into that garbage?
He think people are stupid.
Yeah, I know, and he's doing this. You notice his body language. Yes, this is what we were doing. We were messing you over, and he's nodding his head affirmatively. Like, dude, I can't see that.
Right. Well, major U.S. cities on alert after U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, right? So New York, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C., they're on heightened alert. An announcement on the night of June 21st, President Donald Trump confirmed the U.S. military carried out the bombing mission targeting 3 facilities when you talked about the B-2s and stuff like that. We're tracking a situation unfolding in Iran. The New York City Police Department stated in an expo post, out of an abundance of caution, we're deploying additional resources to religious, cultural, and diplomatic sites across New York City and coordinating with our federal partners. We're continuing to monitor for any potential impact on New York. So these are the major cities. Now listen, sleeper cells. Iran said, "Oh, we're sleeper cells in your country."
Yeah, Biden and Harris let them in.
Yeah. So
that's what I've been saying for the last year. These stupid idiots open up the borders with this kind of atmosphere going on.
So this ceasefire, where are we going? Because
you look, what you've done is you've got a nice political coup that's been pulled off, which is very effective. You've got the formal Iranian government snatched out of the picture. You've got an international restudy of the 11th month of the year, 11th day, 11th hour. The year is 1918, where there was a negotiated armistice between Germany and the rest of the world to stop World War I, but the United States was interesting. Rather than stopping it, several American generals planned outright offensives for that morning, for the couple hours before the armistice, so that they could show how badass they were. And one particular American general lost quite a few hundred dead American troops because he wanted to capture a bathhouse in the town. And it was only an hour before the armistice or the truce was supposed to hit, but he went ahead and launched this huge division-wide attack. So the rest of the world thinks of that, and it also thinks of the 1870s and 1880s when there was no quarter given in the Indian fighting that was going on the American frontier. The United States fights war in a ruthless fashion. We're the ones that gave rise to the term unconditional surrender. That was President Grant. His name was Simpson Ulysses Grant. They wrote it down wrong as U.S. Grant, Ulysses Simpson. And then in the Civil War here in Tennessee, he gave a certain Confederate fortress the offer of an unconditional surrender. In other words, surrender no conditions. So he became known as Unconditional Surrender Grant, U.S. Grant. And
here's
the rest of the world is scared of that.
I want to ask you this because, sleeper cells, and it could have been here before Biden went into office, but definitely under his administration. So do you think that we will have, God forbid, have another 9/11?
Yes.
Another
definitely.
9/11.
They're already here.
No. But do you think that we would?
Yes. All you need is a couple of crazies, and all they need to do is get their word out through their grapevine, or however in the devil they want it, and they're in place. They've got this explosives here. That's why I talked about. I know I'm not telling anybody about anything that you can't look up on Google. One of the worst explosives you can buy in the United States is most effective for destroying stuff. All you got to do is go to your lawn and garden store and buy it.
with sleeper cells, because we all believe they're sleeper cells. Now, of course, this administration never confirmed if we do, but why would they? But if cities are on high alert, that is an indicator that we have sleeper cells. I want to bring George Bush into it, because when George Bush was elected president, within 6 months, that same year, that January he was inaugurated, and 9/11 happened in September, right? And so now that we kind of know the truth of 9/11, is it the same pattern with Trump? Is that the same pattern?
No, it's not.
What's the difference?
George W. Bush was trying to get his family firm, Halliburton, the oil exploitation rights in Iraq. The whole thing started before 9/11 when Hussein and the Russians and the French drew up a contract granting the French and the Russians the right to exploit Iraqi oil. Halliburton had been in on it. One of Obama's uncles, Uncle Herbie, also Uncle Herbie to President George Herbert Walker Bush and President George Walker Bush, started Halliburton. They wanted the contract. That's why he exercised his initiative to come up with that false weapons of mass destruction. Now, there's one other thing that really scares me about this. What are these people complaining about in California with this ICE crackdown? They're losing workers, right?
Why are you going? We're not there.
Well, no, I mean, this is the point. They're losing workers because of ICE crackdown. So, in other words, these people that are sneaking across the border, invading the country, are working in what, agricultural fields? Yes?
I don't know. What is your point?
Yeah, agricultural workers. And the same agricultural field possesses and regularly uses one of the most effective explosives in the known world. So what the devil are you looking at? You bring people across the border who get in this particular occupation dealing with agriculture, where you need fertilizer. The main fertilizer also is a main explosive, and you turn them loose out there with nobody looking at them. And what the hell do you think's going to happen if one of them decides he's going to play crackpot? That's what he works around every day. You grow oranges, you grow fruits, vegetables, you need fertilizer. And that's where they've let these people get into, where they don't even have to smuggle the doggone goods over. They're here already. That's a great, stupid thing that Biden Harris have to claim credit for. And every one of these clowns is violating Title 8, Section 1324, setting up sanctuary cities, needs to spend a lot of federal penitentiary time off in jail for doing what they did. It's absolutely criminal.
Are you done?
Well, yeah. So why do you have to hijack an airplane now? You don't need it. You got the U.S. government to give you transportation, or a city or a state government to your sanctuary city, where you're being put up by some idiots who are spending good money that could be spent on the country. Mm-hmm. And they're sending it back home. And nobody has to go play suicide bomber anymore. Just flip the switch. It's already dealt with. And probably Black Lives Matter, since they advertise on their site that they will arrange transportation, communications, and facilitate setting up demonstrations and protests. I imagine in their grab for money through Act Blue and also through LGBTQIA, which raises money along with them, they've been taking in a lot of money so they can go paint themselves gold and get little mansions on the West Coast. And meanwhile, they've been setting up transportation and diffuse activities for people who are protesting and demonstrating.
Well,
great.
So let me ask you this then, because they told the three major cities, New York, DC, and Los Angeles, on high alert when Trump issued the missile attack in Iran for at their nuclear plants. It's a coincidence that, you know, these are blue cities, right? And so, you know, and they're yelling it's unconstitutional or whatever. Should all Americans, is there some type of precaution that we need to take, even though there's a ceasefire, or should we just go back to our pampered poodle lives here in the United States?
Well, I live in Memphis, Tennessee. I used to frequently get out to the offices in the non-coms club here at Millington Naval Air Station, which is a huge facility. And this is a nuclear target. This is also a sabotage target. Right here in Memphis on Mud Island, they call it, where there was an amusement park in a housing development. They have the one center in the United States that balances every single propeller for a nuclear submarine. So if they take this place out, that's a prime target to deal with too. You've got all of these waterworks around here, and you've got an interesting curve in the Mississippi River. You've got two huge bridges going across the damn thing, and there aren't any for a long way in either direction. This is a prime target. And these idiots are trying to make it into a sanctuary city, and it's blue. So yeah, everybody can run into this kind of situation. It's a mess.
No, it is a mess, but you know, so the reason why I asked, you know, is it the same pattern with Trump? Because 9/11, you know,
he's doing something about it.
It wasn't so not, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole of 9/11, but 9/11 wasn't, the truth of 9/11 wasn't what the president at that time said it was.
Hell no.
It had nothing to do with Iraq or whatever.
That sleazy dog was trying to get his family business, Halliburton, the contract to exploit Iraqi oil. They did in 2007 after the dust hit the ground. And what happened is, the last I checked, which has been quite some time ago, this was like 2008, Halliburton was making $2.7 million net every 7 hours.
So then that's
filthy rich. That was after all expenses. Every 7 hours of the year, they were getting that.
So with Trump, and that's why I say, is it the same pattern to where if something like that happens again here on the American soil, is it because of some sick, deep state rooted agenda that has?
No, it's not sick state booted agenda. What happens is,
I'm saying
you've got 30 to 50, maybe 60 million people that have infiltrated. The German nation, when they fought World War I, was just that big. So you've let in effectively the entire Han nation get in here without vetting anybody. You don't know where they are. And you mean to tell me that out of anywhere from 30 to 60 million people, you don't have some crackpots, cranks, idiots, and psychopaths running around loose that have their own agendas?
Right. And okay, so that makes sense. Yes, totally. And that's the difference. That's a complete difference between the two. Absolutely.
Somebody's saying, I'm tired of being a peon. I got an opportunity to sell what I know or the access I know for a fortune. I can become one of these rich El Patrons. I don't have to be a peasant anymore in life. Hell, he can go sell this stuff out and it's already in place. There's no telling what kind of crazy crank is out there wanting to use this. See, that's what we've left in place. It's too late. Now you got to go double up the police works and intelligence gathering networks. You've got a problem where we've tried to keep some kind of privacy going on in this country. The CIA and the NSA are not supposed to be operating internally in the United States. The FBI can't handle this stuff. So who the hell's out there? The Secret Service dealing with counterfeit? And we know how that worked. We won't even bring that subject up.